are just days away from all the excitement, but let's real talk for a minute. Because for many couples, this may not be as much of an exciting time. If you're struggling with a difficult spouse when it comes to sharing the holidays, the simple fact of the matter is they are not valuing you. And amazingly enough, this is a very common problem among married couples today. The holidays come around every year, and if you have the one spouse that seems to dictate or control which family you see over which holidays, this can become stressful and debilitating every single year. So what happened? What changed? If you were to ask all the singles in the world what they would want most for the holidays, I bet you they would probably say companionship, a relationship, love. So it's fascinating to me that we have couples who are struggling this much when it comes to compromising and splitting the holidays, because you've got what you wanted. You have your special person in your life to share and spend the holidays with, and now all of a sudden it has become a huge part as to why many seem to dread the holidays. And there can be plenty of reasons for this. One, your spouse really just may not enjoy being around your family. This is a truth that we need to surface and accept. Doesn't make it right, especially if this is something that your spouse is not communicating with you, and essentially they are creating a problem on top of another problem they're trying to avoid. But there can also be family enmeshment, fear of disappointment, disapproval, shame, rejection, control, and change in itself. Not a lot of people can handle change. Even if you are someone that comes from a family that doesn't celebrate with big holiday traditions and your spouse does, say your spouse has strict family traditions every year, that doesn't make your holiday traditions and your idea of how the holidays should be celebrated in your eyes insignificant. And if your spouse year after year continues to dismiss your needs and your holiday expectations in order to fulfill their own, they're ultimately devaluing the meaning of marriage and partnership. And this is also seen as disrespect. So what can you do? Around this time of year, how do you deal with this? Because I feel like as a society, we are so focused on giving up our needs and giving up our desires for others and family members. And while that might be true because the holidays only come around once a year, they are a 2.5-month span, if you were to think about it. The holidays last a good amount of the portion of the year. And that in no way means that we should give up our needs entirely, especially if you have a spouse that seems to run the show every year or has the my way or the highway approach when it comes to whose family you travel to see on which holidays. And I did a lot of research on this, and it's fascinating to me that couples are struggling with this because this should be the happiest time of the year. And I really do feel like this is an issue that continues to get brushed under the rug for couples. And it has got to stop. So I am telling you, this is the year to put your foot down, set your boundaries in your marriage, and start taking a stand for what you want around the holidays. Now, I wrote a post about this a little while back about setting boundaries in your marriage when it comes to the holidays, because boundaries are critical. They are what you allow and don't allow in your life and in your marriage. Boundaries are also meant to reinforce what you tolerate and what you won't tolerate from your spouse. Now, when I've seen advice being given to couples on this issue, it almost seems like people are afraid or intimidated to say it, because I think in a sense this solution is impossible in some circumstances, but I'm going to say it anyway because I think it can help someone. So if you're struggling with a spouse who refuses to compromise or share the holidays year after year, consider spending them separate. And I know this is difficult to do, especially when you have kids. It almost is null and void. Can't do it. And I understand that. But I think the message behind that is it shouldn't ever get to that point. You should never have to get to the point where you spend your holidays separate from your spouse, because what was the point of getting married? I think it's to send a message that, the holidays are meant to be around those you love. Your spouse is family. And any counselor or marriage therapist is going to tell you that. They're going to tell you your spouse comes before family. Your spouse is your family. And when you get married, it's no longer about you and your parents, siblings, and extended family anymore when it comes to the holidays. You now have 3 different families to consider. Not just your own, not just your spouse's, but you and your spouse as your own family unit. You are a separate family entity. So there's 3 families that you have to consider. And it's amazing to me that we have people who are this selfish around a time of the year where you're not supposed to be. And I don't know if it's that the holidays brings about so much stress and obligation to appease and win the approval of our extended family, so we kind of push our spouse on the back burner. Either way, that shouldn't happen. That doesn't need to happen, because that creates disconnection in the marriage. And if you're not prioritizing your spouse and their idea of what they want over the holidays, or prioritizing their needs and their holiday traditions, then I always have to ask the question, why are you even married if you don't have the ability to do that? So when I say that you should spend the holidays separate, it should never get to that point. But I say that because with my husband's job, he works most holidays. And I have spent many holidays on my own or alone with my parents without him. And I'll tell you what, it sucks. It sucks. I don't like it. It really brings my marriage and the holidays themselves into perspective, because I don't care where I am or who I'm with. If I'm not with my husband, I'm not happy. This is the first year that my husband actually had off Thanksgiving and Christmas Eve and Christmas. I remember asking him, hey, what do you want most out of this year? Now that you're off, what do you want to do? I had to consider maybe what he wanted to do, even if it was totally different from what we normally do. But I wanted him to be happy because he's finally off. He doesn't have to come home after working a 13-hour shift and scarf down food before he has to go back to bed. Or he has to drive to and fro different houses while he's on duty and scarf down food then and only get to see family for a matter of 20 minutes before he has to go back to work. Your spouse should be open to considering your needs, even if that means you want to spend Christmas morning alone, just the 2 of you and with the kids. You are more than entitled to that. If that is your idea of the perfect holiday tradition in your eyes, your spouse should respect that. They should value that and make it work. And unfortunately, most people that are going through this, most couples that are going through this, I feel like just comply. Oh, whatever. What am I going to do? How am I going to keep the kids away from my husband? How is my husband going to let me walk out the door with the kids and do what I want to do over the holidays versus what he wants to do? It's not easy. I don't have an easy answer for you, but it's about putting your foot down. It's about taking a stand and setting boundaries. Because while the holidays are about giving and selflessness for others, it doesn't mean giving up your needs. So if you're one who struggles with the spouse who refuses to share or compromise around the holidays, put a stop to that now, because that means there are no boundaries within your marriage and you need them. Otherwise, what you allow is what will continue. Period. So I will put a link in the description to that recent blog post I wrote about boundaries in marriage around the holidays. And I hope this little piece of advice can give you a little perspective on reconnecting with your spouse around the holidays so that you guys can come together and merge your holiday traditions the way that it was meant to be. I will see you in the new year, guys. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I will see you next year in 2020. Bye!